Hello friends, myself Pratik. In this session we are going to solve the assignment for enforcing preconditions with assert statement. Let us start this session. In previous session I asked you to enforce the preconditions for this grade remark functions with the use of assert statement. We have two preconditions. One, grade should be of int or float type, and second, grade should be greater than 0 and grade should be less than or equal to 100. In previous sessions we have enforced these preconditions with if condition. Now this time we are going to enforce these preconditions with assert statement. This is the code for enforcing preconditions with if statement. So now we have to change this to enforce precondition with assert. Let's first enforce our first preconditions, that grade should be of int or float type. So here we will be using assert. Then we have to give a boolean expression. So the expression is this: is instance grade int or is instance grade float. If this boolean expression is true, it will perform nothing and our code will execute. Otherwise this will raise assertion error. So let's check this with input marks 34. So let's execute it. This is working perfectly fine and it is returning trollish. Now this time let's make this a string. So if this is string, you can see that this is returning assertion error. So we have achieved our objective, but you can see that this is not giving appropriate error message. This is just giving assertion error. So in order to display appropriate error message with assert, you can simply specify your message after your boolean condition. So you just need to write comma and then you can give your message here. So now finally I have assert this precondition. If this precondition is true, it will do nothing and main code execute. But if this condition is false, it will raise assertion error with this error message. So let's check this. So I am executing this. This time it is returning assertion error with appropriate error message that grade should be of int or float type. So we have enforced our first preconditions with the use of assert statement. And I hope you appreciate that this is quite easy as compared to implementing it with if statement. Let's enforce our second precondition, that is grade should be greater than 0 and grade should be less than or equal to 100. And I know that you can do it very easily on your own. So you just need to add assert statement here with the precondition. So the precondition is grade should be greater than 0 and grade should be less than or equal to 100. If this precondition is satisfied, it will do nothing and main code will execute. Otherwise it will raise assertion error. So let's check this with input 123. So we are getting assertion error. Let's check this for a float value. So I'm giving now float value. It should work and it is returning acceptable. We can also display appropriate error message with this assert. So I can simply display the message that grade should be greater than 0 and less than or equal to 100 if this assert expression is false. So let's check this for number this for grade 5, 6, 7. So instead of simply returning assertion error, this time it is also returning appropriate error message. We have used assert statement with boolean condition and appropriate error message. This way we have enforced both the preconditions with assert statement. It is also very important to note that the checking of is instance int or float should be performed first as compared to grade greater than or less than equal to 100. Because if you perform comparison with the string type, it will return syntax error. So in order to explain my point, let us consider this code. Here I have written assert statement for grade greater than 0 and grade less than 0 as a first task. Then it is checking for is instance int and float. Now this time let's suppose the input is 78 as a string. When you pass 78 as a string, first it will check this. When this expression is evaluated, here it will compare string with integer value, and this will raise syntax error. So this time your code will not work and it will raise syntax error, and you can see that we are again getting the syntax error that greater than not supported between str and int. So my point is that this comparison should be performed only if you are sure that data type is int or float. If data type is string, simply this assert statement will generate false and it will raise assertion error with this particular message, and it will not execute second assert statement. The second assert statement will only execute if your grade is of int or float type. Then only it is checking or comparing it with 0 and 100. So I hope you got my point, that in this case my grade is of string type. So here it will return false and it will display appropriate message and generate assertion error, and it stopped the execution of the main code, and the second assert statement will not execute. So this time you will not get any type error. Let's execute this. So you can see that here it is displaying an appropriate message that grade should be of int or float type, and it will perform comparison only if it is of int and float type. So this time the second assert will execute, and here during comparison it raised this error that grade should be greater than 0 and it should be less than 100. So my point is that always remember to first check desirable data type and then only compare with the range. So this is all about this session, and in next session we will be discussing about unit testing for our functions. This is again very important topic, and in order to perform unit test we will be using again assert statement. So this is all about this session, and please watch next session to understand how to perform unit testing on our functions. Thanks for watching this video. God bless you.